So that girl I met on eHarmony.
Yeah.
We're out to dinner last night, and like a klutz, I tipped my drink all over myself.
Oh, no.
And it's all down my shirt, a horrible stain, so embarrassing. And you'll never guess.
What?
She smiles, picks up her drink, spills it all over her top. So now we're...
No way.
Amazing, right?
At eHarmony, you'll find someone you can be yourself with. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up for eHarmony today. So that guy I met on eHarmony, yeah, we're out together last night and I step off a curb and snap, heel breaks right off my shoe.
Oh no.
So I say, hell with it, take them off so I'm barefoot, and you'll never guess.
What?
He leans over, takes off his shoes and socks, and now we're both...
You're joking.
Amazing, right?
At eHarmony, you'll find someone you can be yourself with. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up for eHarmony today.
There are a small handful of things that will tip the odds in favor of you having more years lived in good health in your future. Having a higher than average VO2 max, having higher than average muscle mass, being metabolically resilient, having good balance, good mobility, and most importantly, being mentally tough enough to keep moving your life forward in a world that will always be full of pain and uncertainty. Being able to see the world from a different perspective than what is considered normal. What if I told you that there was one single thing you could do that would improve all of these high priority targets? What? You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 137, Midlife Multi-Tool with the Untamed Yogini. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to another episode. Thank you so much for listening in today. How is your morning routine? Have you increased your chances of having a masterpiece day by living into the fact that your evening routine counts twice? Don't overlook 2-for-1 deals when creating the life and future that you want. Today, we have a very special episode for you. I'm not a big fan of Valentine's Day in general, but if you're listening to this the day it comes out, happy Valentine's Day. I might change my mind about this holiday because today we get to hear from someone who's an authority about self-love. So I think it's totally perfect for today. I got the pleasure to chat with Angela Marie, also known as the Untamed Yogini. Angela is a 500-hour experienced registered yoga teacher, which is the highest level of Yoga Alliance recognized yoga instructor that there is. She helps women embrace their body's own wisdom, heal, and unlock their fullest potential. She was able to heal herself from endometriosis and recurring ovarian cysts, and she helps women all over the world heal in their own ways through the practice and principles of yoga. That's something I came to gain an understanding and appreciation for as I talked with her. There's the practice, the particular poses and the breathing and such. And then there's the principles, the way yoga influences your life perspective. Angela's also just the most lovely human being to talk to, so I hope you enjoy her wisdom and perspective and find something valuable in today's episode. All right, welcome, Angela. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited too because you know so much more about this than I do, so I think it'll be super valuable for people who are listening, so it's going to be great.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much. So just to get started, so you're a yoga teacher, but you've done you have kind of some awesome other bits to your story about healing yourself and that kind of thing. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that all ties together?
Yeah, I would love to. Um, so my yoga journey and my womb healing journey kind of overlapped
Mhm.
with each other. But I originally went to yoga for anxiety. I wanted to kind of heal my anxiety, quote unquote. I think really it's more about managing it. But yeah, I went to yoga to do that. And I was also suffering from endometriosis and reoccurring ovarian cysts. And these two things kind of overlapped while I was beginning my yoga journey. And even though they were two separate healing journeys, they are one and the same. And I think, we'll talk about that a little bit later today, that, everything is yoga. And so I found that the whole practice of my womb healing journey and my yoga was its own yogic practice that really helped to bring healing on a mind, body, and soul level.
Mhm.
And so, with my womb healing journey, it was very much about mindfulness and tracking my cycle and learning the ebbs and flows of my cycle and nurturing every aspect of that. And that in and of itself was a practice.
Mhm.
And while I was, practicing on my mat, trying to calm my nervous system and regulate my nervous system, that in and of itself was a practice and actually helped the practice in my womb healing journey as well, because I was highly stressed from the anxiety and cortisol levels were high. And so as I continued to learn more and more, I realized that that was actually helping, lower those cortisol levels and lower the inflammation in my body. So it's like, honestly, like peanut butter and jelly, it just goes together, womb healing and yoga. But honestly, yoga complements literally anything and everything that you do
Mm.
in life. So
Yeah, awesome. I love
yeah,
that story. And I think a lot of people would heal from physical ailments better if they're also healing their mental. Like that's,
absolutely.
yeah. So perfect. Okay. So I just thought we would briefly mention. So I'm all about like putting more life in your years in the future, right? And so I think some of the very most important things for that are strength, aerobic conditioning, proper body alignment so you don't get chronic pain later, and then balance and mobility. Those are all things that are like crucial, crucial, crucial if you want to have
Yes.
a lot of good, healthy years in your future. And so I'm sure we could talk about that for hours and you could tell us a lot of stuff, but I feel like that's a little bit of a, like everybody would believe that if you're like, yoga helps with all of these things, you'll have a better life in the future if you have a regular yoga practice. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but I thought we'd a little bit skim over that, even though it's so crucially important because it seems a little bit like obvious to me.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem obvious, but I think the reason is because yoga, it's a holistic modality. It's going over mind, body, and soul.
Mhm.
So it's touching on all of those elements, or not elements, all of those areas of your life. So if you're looking to strengthen your body, you're going to get it. If you're looking to strengthen your mind, you're going to get it. If you're looking for more flexibility in your body or your mind, you're going to get it, right? So it's working not just on a physical level, but also on an energetic and a spiritual level, a mental level. And
Mhm.
so it's all encompassing. And I think that's why yoga is so very powerful for all of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because I'm sure there's so much more we could talk about that, but I
Of
feel
course.
like if you're consistent and you do this regularly, it's going to help all of those areas, which will help you to create a better life for yourself in the future.
Absolutely.
And something that you've talked about on your podcast that I love is using it as a way to help you get more consistent. And how, like the consistency helps you with yoga, but it helps you in all the other areas of your life too, if you're able to kind of get yourself to do things in a loving way. And you
Mhm.
had mentioned something about, how did you say it? Learning to sit, like sitting in stillness and learning to soften into the discomfort. So I was wondering if you could tell us how we can use yoga to help us soften into discomfort and how that might change our lives, because I think that's hugely important if you're able to soften into, I don't like this, but I love myself enough to do it anyway, kind of a
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. This is a common theme that I teach in my classes because yoga isn't always comfortable. I think a lot of times people have it that yoga is very zen, it's very relaxing. And then a lot of times, probably it's like that episode that you were listening to, I talked about this. A lot of times people will sit in meditation, once or twice, and their mind is kind of like all over the place. And they're like, I'm bad at yoga. Like yoga is not for me because it's uncomfortable. And they've got monkey mind thinking that they're just bad at it. But really, this is the practice. And the more that you can practice being with that, just witnessing the thoughts that are monkeying around as a spectator versus being attached to it and being, I am those thoughts, but simply witnessing it like you're watching a television, right? Is really helpful. And times that you're maybe uncomfortable just in the stillness in your body and you kind of want to start fidgeting around, it doesn't mean that you can't fidget around. It's just recognizing that I feel like I need to fidget around, but can you consistently stay there anyway? Can you say, okay, I've committed to 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is, and actually be with whatever discomfort is coming your way, whether it's mentally or physically. And I'm not talking about pain. There's a big difference between pain and discomfort. Pain is generally a communication saying, hey, back off. Like, let's stop this and readjust. Discomfort is just that. It's just uncomfortable. It's not painful, but it's uncomfortable to be there. And if you can start to tap into some of the tools that yoga has, right? The breath, the conscious softening of the body. So, when you inhale, really feeling that breath. And as you exhale, really consciously start to soften maybe the shoulders at first, or maybe the face. When you start to practice these tools to move you through it, you start to learn how to soften. Like, I'm still uncomfortable, but I'm able to soften into it. It come to a more surrendered place, if you will. And what happens is the more you practice this and the more consistent you are, your capacity to hold discomfort will begin to expand. And then that translates off the mat, because let's face it, like, life is not comfortable. It's not very comfortable. There's going to be challenges and hardships that are going to consistently come your way. And the more you practice being in this discomfort and learning how to soften and surrender, the more you're going to be able to confidently face those challenges and know that you can handle anything that comes your way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. Yeah. It really is a confidence boost if you can get yourself even like a couple minutes at the beginning, and then maybe that'll build into 3 minutes and then 5 minutes or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Just that trusting yourself that I can get through something difficult without having to, whatever, buffer away in some way.
Yeah. And that builds your confidence, right? The more that you show up for yourself simply because you said that you're going to, even though it might be uncomfortable, or even though you might have every reason and excuse not to show up, when you do, you build that trust within yourself. And that trust and that confidence and that capacity to hold uncomfortability translates literally into anything and everything that you do in your life.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Especially like definitely the mental, like almost like a meditation kind of thing, but also the physical too. Like you had said some kind of a quote on your podcast about the pose really starts the minute that you want to leave it or something.
Yeah, that quote is actually by a very famous yogi, who's known for bringing the hatha style yoga, that we know today, into the Western society, and that's BKS Iyengar. And he says, the moment that you want to leave the pose, that's when it starts. And it really is, because that's where you're going to witness so much about yourself. Like, one of the things that I like to bring to attention is, okay, it's hard and you want to leave. Now you want to leave the pose. What's going on in your body? How are you handling this somewhat of a stress? What's going on in your mind? What is the self-talk that's happening? Is it, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough? What is the self-talk that's happening that's making you want to get out of this pose? What's happening physically? What's by taking note and witnessing yourself in that moment that you want to leave, you can learn so much about how you do life. and
Mhm.
how you handle the challenges in your life. So what if you can, again, soften, use the tools, focus on the breath or a mantra, or switch the narrative, right? To, I can do this. I'm so strong. I'm so capable. Whatever it is, if you can shift the focus, it will become easier. You'll be able to
Mhm.
soften into that even that resistance that you have of holding a difficult posture. There is a sense of softening and surrendering into it, but you have to face what it is that's
Mhm.
making you want to leave first.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's like, even though it's uncomfortable, it's an opportunity to get some information and learn more about yourself.
So much information is there, yes.
Yeah. And then you can use that in whatever your boss is rude to you at work or whatever the thing is. And you're like, I
Exactly.
know this thing about myself or what. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so informational. And, I know for myself, in the very beginning of my practice, I would get very angry. Like the moment I wanted to leave a pose, my first response was anger.
Mm,
And as I continued my practice, I realized just how much that was my first response to things. And it was a protective mechanism.
mhm,
And when I was able to say, okay, that's just me feeling like I needed to be protected. I can put down the shield, I can put down the sword, and I can actually be present and be here. It's really transformative, right? So you can see how that translates into our world. And then when we catch ourselves, we can then make a different choice consciously.
yeah. I love that. I hadn't even thought about that being able to be present. That's huge, huge in yoga, I'm sure, but I wasn't really even thinking about that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Because we're faced with a challenge, right? Something happens. And then if you've noticed on your mat, like this is my go-to response. Anger is my go-to
mhm,
response when I'm getting challenged. And then here I am off my mat and I'm getting challenged and I'm getting angry. And I'm now present to it.
mhm,
And it's like once you're outside the box, you can't actually go back in the box. So you either go ahead and accept and just be angry. Okay, you can do that, or you can make a different choice. And this is
mhm.
your opportunity. So what are you going to practice now?
Yeah, I love it. It's all a practice, everything
It's
we do,
all a
right?
practice.
Yeah,
Yes.
awesome. Okay, so one thing that I wanted to definitely ask you about, we hadn't talked about this in our chat before, but the whole interoception thing. So I think most people are pretty disconnected from what their body is trying to tell them. I think, in my opinion, that's a lot of the reason why everybody just wants to take a pill. If there's any kind of problem, give me the pill that will fix this so that I don't have to think about it or deal with it and I don't even really know what's going on with me. And I think you'll be able to create a life where you're healthy for a lot longer and you know what's going on with your body if you develop an ability to have that interoception and understand what's going on in there. So I was wondering what you would want to share about how yoga as a practice helps you with that interoception.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was thinking about that in regard to, I feel like that's really our natural state. When we look around, we're surrounded by, four walls and cities and fast-paced society, and most of us don't grow our own food. We're very disconnected from our food. We're not running around barefoot in the forest anymore, foraging and hunting our
Mhm.
food, right? So, if we were, we'd be in this natural state of heightened senses. We
Mm,
just would.
mhm,
Um, but because we're a bit removed from that kind of natural state, and we're in our heads a lot about what's going on in work and family and the stressors of life and all these things, we tend to forget that there's so much communication happening within our bodies
mhm,
every single day. You know, One of the most common things that I deal with, I work with women, is, women walk around thinking that period cramps are normal. And this is just a part of life, really painful periods and
mhm,
all that. And it being kind of a really awful state of the month. But it's actually not the most natural state. It's actually period cramps are saying, hey, something's off. There's inflammation happening in the body. And I'm letting you know through this pain that something is off. But because we've written it off as normal, it gets ignored.
mhm,
Um, and so, in regard to yoga, a lot of the practices that we do are focusing on the breath, right? Really being mindful about the inhale and what is that experience like? The exhale, what is that experience like? Where do you feel it? Doing body scans, from head to toe as you're sitting in a meditation and getting curious about what areas of your body are calling out to you. Maybe you feel a dull ache or a numbing or a tingling, or just maybe your mind just directly goes to a space and you don't even know why, but there's something there. So you can explore it by using these practices of mindfulness to kind of really tune in to the experience of the body, even if it's connecting to the heartbeat. I mean, how often have you sat so still that you can feel your heartbeat against your chest, right? When we can get really curious about those sensations, the more attuned we become to things when they are off, right? I know when I first started yoga, I would get sick a lot, and it always felt like it was coming out of nowhere. But as I continued to do yoga, one, I started getting sick less, but then when it would come on, I would feel it days ahead of time, and I would actually be able to maneuver and kind of tweak maybe my diet or get more rest, and kind of check in like, okay, what's going on here? I'm not feeling right. Am I not getting enough sleep? Am I not getting the right nourishment? Am I feeling stressed? I could start looking at it from a holistic viewpoint and then make adjustments. And more often than not, I would either get sick way less and for a way shorter time or not sick at all. And so, I think by practicing these modalities, it can fine tune to kind of get ahead of the game and be able to serve your body where it's being called to be served, because it really is communicating. Every time you have a food craving, it's communicating to you. There's something in that food that your body needs. Google it. What's in this food? If you're craving chocolate, you might need magnesium, right? So, getting really curious, I think, is really helpful. And in regard to like the yoga and the menstrual cycle, very, very similar, right? Just tracking and getting really curious about every day of that cycle. And you start to notice patterns in your body. And the more patterns you know, you'll start to know when something is off, because it's been very consistent in one way or another. And so I think yoga teaches us to be really curious and to listen.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that idea of just like taking a minute. Is that what you would recommend to people? Like have a regular time of day, take a few minutes and be curious and just kind of listen to what's there or feel what's there.
Yeah, actually, what I would highly recommend is just doing a short meditation of the senses. So, I'm going to be having an episode this week on my podcast. It's going to lead through that. So you can always check that out. It'll be episode 54.
Okay.
If you need somebody to lead you through it. But basically, you just check in with the senses, sit there in stillness, smell. What am I smelling right now? Take notice. Taste. What am I tasting right now? Look around. What am I seeing? What am I feeling if I touch something? And I would not skip over the sixth sense of feeling. I think that one is also very important. And it can be overlooked. So you've got your physical sensations, but then also see if you can tap into the energy of yourself. Like, how does that energy within you feel? And how does the energy of the room feel? This is not something that can really be done logically. You can't really think about it. It's more of a feeling. But again, the more you practice it, the more you can actually notice the differences. So you'll notice even the differences when walking into a room or being with other people. You'll start to notice, oh, wow, I can feel shifts of energy as well as shifts within my body.
I love that. Some people talk about that and I'm like, wow, they're amazing. If they're like, there was this certain energy in the room, or I feel this energy from you or something. Yeah, that's pretty cool to be able to become somebody who's able to feel that.
Yeah, and we're all capable of it. It's part of us. Intuition is just as natural as tasting or smelling.
I love it, but we're mostly cut off from that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So one thing that we had talked about before that I really love that I think would be helpful for people is to think about, you had talked about kind of energies and like how season of our life is kind of related to a season of the year. And I love
Yeah.
that you were saying, well, yeah, perimenopause is kind of this autumn season. And you were explaining like what autumn means and how we can use that to make our life better and realize, oh, this is the season I'm in. So if you're able to kind of
Yes.
explain about autumn energy, I guess.
Yes, I love that. It's a topic I'm really passionate about. So, I teach the seasons of the cycle and the seasons of life for women.
Mm.
And perimenopause and PMS are in the same season of autumn. And so what this is in the season of our life is just like the trees, the leaves are dying off and they're falling to the ground because the tree no longer needs them. Actually, it's going to need to conserve energy. The life force is going to go into the roots and it's going to start to cultivate for something new to be rebirthed, which will happen inevitably in the spring. Right. So we know this about our seasons, but how does it apply to our life? Well, in perimenopause, or this 40 plus, right, kind of time frame in our life, a lot of women come to this space of grief, of feeling like maybe there was years lost, feeling like there might not be so many ahead. And this can be really challenging and scary time. But if you can look at it as the season of autumn, right, what's happening is old ways of being, how maybe certain ways that we've been up until this point in our life, maybe they don't serve us anymore.
Mm.
And they're coming to light to make you uncomfortable so that you can let them go with a bit more ease, right? Because if you can see like, oh, that doesn't work, it's easier to let it go than it is to hold on to it.
Mhm.
And this is also a time for preparation. It's a transitional season. So during this time in nature, this is harvest time. We are harvesting all of our beautiful crops and we're gonna store them and we're gonna get things ready for the winter, right? It's the same in the season of our life. We're harvesting everything that we've cultivated thus far. We get to harvest all of that. We get to let go of what no longer serves us on this next chapter of our journey. And we get to start to prepare to transition into that winter state of our lives. And now the autumn season can last quite a long time. It can be 10 years or,
Mhm.
and so there's no rush. And if anything, autumn and winter, there is slowing down. It's coming into yourself. It's a time for reflection. And so although there might be some discomfort physically, hormones start to shift and estrogen starts to decrease, creating all kinds of issues and symptoms.
Mhm.
But the thing I think to remember is that your body is always working for you. It wants you to survive. And if you can approach it with a mindset of, okay, this is an autumn season. This is a time to let go, things that are no longer serving me. And that might include your estrogen, right? Because you're going to be moving into a different chapter of your life. And that chapter of life has, beautiful things to offer, just like winter.
Mhm.
And it's going to be up to you to really find those gems. And I think having a powerful mindset going into this season of our life is really crucial, because it's not something that is happening to us. I think it's happening for us
Mhm.
and setting us up in this beautiful next chapter.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I
Yeah.
like how you were talking about the energy going from the showy leaves down into the roots where you can't see it. But if you think about a person, like that's why we get so much wiser with age, is our energy is in our roots and we're able to
Yes.
connect to everybody else and see things less from being showy or having what the world wants and really being grounded deep, deep inside. So
Yes, the wise old tree,
yeah,
rooted
I
and
love it.
wise. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and after we talked last time, I was thinking about the whole autumn thing because I'm like, autumn is my favorite season, like as far
Me
as
too.
seasons go. It's gorgeous and it's so fun, and but it is a little bit finicky. Like some days it'll be warm and sunny and really pretty, and some days it's like cold and rainy, and it kind of goes between. I'm like, that
Very
kind of
much like
matches.
perimenopause.
Yeah, that kind of matches. Yep.
Very much the same. Yes.
Yep. And we can use our time to get ready for post-menopause, which is our winter. And I hope we'll do all the things, and I think of kind of hunkering down and whatever, but I hope people are also like metaphorically waxing their skis and getting ready to play in the snow and stuff because there's so much fun about winter too.
Yes, absolutely. There's lots to be enjoyed during winter. It's not
Hmm.
all, hunkering down inside. There's a lot of joy to be experienced, and also with that slowness that comes with winter. Coziness, slowness, time with
Hmm.
family, time with what really matters, time with your thoughts and reflections. And, all of that comes in that season of our life as well.
Yeah, awesome. Like it's a perfect time to use that rooted energy and all the wisdom that you've gained to kind of connect with other people and sort of weed out the silly nonsense that you don't need anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And pass it down,
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
whoever that is. Maybe it's your children or your grandchildren or whoever is in your life. You get to pass down that wisdom, that story, adventure of your life before you move on. But the autumn season, I love that you brought that up with sometimes it's rainy, sometimes it's sunny. It's very finicky. It's very much like that during perimenopause, and it can feel like, oh gosh, this is so hard.
Hmm.
But remembering that the autumn season is essential. Each season is essential. It's
Right.
crucial to get to the next chapter, and that's really all that's happening. You are a part of nature, and it's working for you. It's working for
Right.
you.
Yeah, it doesn't mean something because it's a rainy day today, doesn't mean something went wrong. This is the season. Right.
Exactly. It's just the season.
Yep. So I think we're running out of time, but I did want to ask you. So I had sent you a question about, I was listening to this thing about this integrated interval. So his idea is that you're working in your day and you just all of a sudden stand up and do some kind of exercise for 20 seconds. And his is usually he's saying like push-ups, pull-ups, squats, something that gets your heart rate up. But I was thinking, how perfect would it be if we knew like we could stand up and do a certain yoga pose for like a certain amount of time to kind of re-energize us, and then we'll go straight back to work. So I was wondering if you had a recommendation for a good yoga pose to do right in the middle of your day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Two of them come to mind. The more you practice, the more you could kind of tune into what would work best for you. But if you're
Mhm.
not really practicing, you just want a couple things, recommendations. The first one that I would recommend is just either a seated cat cow, so you can sit down, or you can get on all fours, hands and knees, and you just inhale, open the heart and lift the chin, and then you exhale, you round, tuck the chin in and round the shoulders, and you just move to your breath. It can be as fast or as slow as you want. If you want more energy, do it more rapid, in and out the nose. If you want something just to really just kind of stretch and open, you can do a slower breath. This is going to bring some mobility to the spine, especially if you've been sitting down for a
Mhm.
long time. This is so good to just open up that heart center. It'll feel really good. It'll also move energy in the body really quickly from the base of the spine up. So you'll feel that energy shift. So that's a really great one. And another one is legs up the wall. So again, if you've been sitting or you've been standing, legs up the wall is one, it's going to get circulation. You can do this for 3 minutes. It takes a full 3 minutes to get that circulation from the feet all the way to the heart and back.
Okay.
And this is going to be rejuvenating. So the cool thing about this pose, it will serve you exactly where you need to be served. You don't actually have to have an intention behind it at all, because if you need more energy, it will give you more energy. If it needs to help calm you down, it will calm you down. This
Mhm.
is something that you can do in the middle of your day. It's something that you can do before bed. It's great for circulation, and it's absolutely one of my favorite poses because it just seems to work for everything.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to get off on a long tangent, but there's this book. Have you heard of egoscue therapy?
No.
So that's one thing that I love. So it's all about like getting your body in alignment. And some of the things they have are yoga poses like downward dog and some other things. But there is one, I assume it's like legs up the wall, but they have you do it with your legs up and then you bend them and put them on the top of the couch. So
Hmm.
you're lying on your back and you got your legs up and then you bend your knees so that they're resting on the top of the couch.
Yeah.
And that's like their go-to thing to fix any kind of back pain.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's great physically, mentally, energetically.
Hmm.
Honestly, there's not like a bad thing for this pose. You can do it with your knees bent. You can do it with your legs up the wall. I like to do it more, if my legs are straight up, I like to do it more at an angle so that there's some weight in my heels to hold the legs on the
Okay.
wall
Okay.
versus straight up.
Mm.
Because then
Hmm.
there's a lot of effort that you have to kind of do to keep them up there. But you
Okay.
can find what works best for you. And it's such a beautiful pose. Again, it just serves you wherever you need to be served.
Yeah. It's super relaxing. And I think it would help, if your back is tight, if you've been sitting working or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And then having the circulation is going to really help as well.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to do those too when I'm in the middle of my day. And then the other thing was yoga obviously helps a ton with mobility. So, like, if you're going to bed, are there a couple of yoga poses that maybe we could like brush our teeth and then just do these really quick before we go to bed?
Yeah, the two that I just mentioned, you could do those.
Mhm.
I would maybe end with the legs up the wall, maybe do a few spinal opening, closing with the breath, a child's pose where you just,
Yeah.
sit onto your heels and rest your third eye onto the floor, your third eye meaning the middle of your forehead.
Mhm.
Um, onto the mat. And the great thing about that is you can even like rock your forehead from side to side and it massages the pineal gland. So it helps to calm the body.
Oh, okay.
Um, so, when you have that pressure right there in the middle of your forehead, it will start to help calm the body,
Mm.
relax the nervous system. And then you can put your legs up the wall. You can do it really in any combination, but I would say, my go-to when I can't sleep, sometimes there's times when I wake up in the middle of the night, and this is for those perimenopausal women, that aren't sleeping very well. This could be really helpful for you. I will do that. I'll put my legs up the wall and I'll do a really long, um, child's pose where I'm putting pressure, like a lot of pressure on my third eye.
Uh-huh.
And then I roll over to my left side and it works every time.
Oh, awesome. Okay. That's a great trick. I've never heard of, so I love child's pose, but I've never like rolled my head, tipped my head back and forth. So,
Yeah. So, when you're in bed, it's harder because it's all soft and squishy.
mhm.
So what I'll do is I'll, make a fist with one hand. I'll take the other hand around it so that it creates kind of like a rock. And I press it. I put my forehead right there, in the center of my fist. So that way I get the pressure. And I'll do that for as long as I can, usually until my feet go numb. And then I roll to my left side and
Okay.
off to sleep I go.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. I was just listening to a book where, so we know that like the shape that you make your body as far as what your posture and pose is can affect your psychology. And there was some kind of study about getting into a bowing position
Mhm.
changes your whole mental state and you're more humble and everything if you have bowed. So I was
Yes.
like, I think that like before Congress starts, they should make them all get in child's pose
Bow.
for like a minute and then they can
Yes.
get up and do their business and they would probably be way better.
I feel more humbled.
Yep.
Yeah. And, another practice, in regard to the bowing, it's also a practice to awaken that third eye energy, which is your intuition. And,
Mm.
you know, physically it's bringing, blood flow up into the pineal gland and to the head. And so, yeah, it has that calming effect, but then it does actually do wonders in opening up that intuitiveness that's within us as well.
Okay. Yeah. So when we're trying to tap into that, maybe do that first and then
Hmm.
sit and listen to what your body's trying to tell you.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay. Anything else that you wanted to share with us that we need to know to make our lives better?
just just practice,
Yeah.
take your life on as a practice. The definition of yoga actually it means to yoke or to unionize. So mind, body, soul, yoking, we're yoking all the elements of our life together. And so when you look at this as a practice, not just on your mat, but in your life, you're yoking every aspect of your life to have harmony, to come together in union. And it doesn't take much. It just takes a bit of mindfulness. Your day can, whether you practice on your mat or not, everything can be a yoga practice, from bringing mindful awareness to how you do the dishes or how you prepare a meal or how you eat the meal. All of those are practice. All of those can be a meditation to serve you, to bring you insight into your life, to help you grow. And, if you're practicing on your mat, anything that you practice on your mat, again, it's just a practice. It's just this little space that we get to practice tools that are going to serve your life. And then you get to take them out into your life. And it doesn't have to be long. I think a lot of times people think I have to show up for an hour, hour and a half, or I have to go to the gym, or I have to take this yoga class. When really, if you could just put a timer on your phone for 5-10 minutes, and, maybe you're just having your morning coffee or tea and you just be in quiet. Just that could be it. Just focus on your breath. Just focus on inhaling and exhaling. 5 minutes. It doesn't take much. It's the consistency and the willingness that is going to make the most impact. It's not the amount of time.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely one of those, we were talking about that before, one of those high leverage behaviors that gets you all this mental clarity, gives you all this information, but it's also that interoception. It tells you information about your body. And then it also helps you with strength and conditioning and balance and mobility. So yeah,
Right. So
it's definitely
why
one of the
not?
best things you could possibly do with your time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. So we all want to go listen to episode 54 now to get this guided thing.
Yeah.
But where do people find your podcast?
Yeah, so it's Untamed Yogini podcast. And you can find me on Spotify, and you can find me on Apple. And Buzzsprout is where I host it. So there's the website over there as well. But if you go to untamedyogini.com, that's my website. And my podcast is there as well.
Awesome. And you have like a yoga membership, right?
Yes, I have an online yoga studio for women. It's called Root to Rise. And it's a yoga womb collective. So it's really about, meeting yourself where you are, whatever season of life you are in womanhood, whatever phase of your cycle that you're in, and really learning how to harness the power of where you are and learn to nurture and sustain yourself where you are through yogic tools and other holistic healing modalities.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I hope everybody goes there, because it sounds like it would be super, super helpful for most people to be able to kind of get more mindful about their body and also help it physically too.
Absolutely. And I also have a free Yin Yoga class. So it's exploring consistency through stillness. So it's very much in alignment with what we were talking about today. And so, Yin Yoga is a very meditative practice with deep stretches and mindfulness. And so you can get that for free if you sign up to my newsletter, and it'll come into your inbox along with off the mat prompts and reflections as well, for you to really go deeper and be able to take that practice on your mat into your life.
Very cool. Yin Yoga. So they'll find that on your website too.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was so great to learn from you, and you have that like calming energy that makes me feel like I could probably do this. Yeah. So it's great.
You absolutely can. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's so great. I never knew before that the word yoga comes from the meaning of to be yoked. I've talked about it before on the podcast that one Belgian draft horse can pull a relatively heavy load, like 8,000 pounds. But when yoked together, 2 draft horses can pull 24,000 pounds. Not twice as much as one, but 3 times as much. Being yoked together. 3 would be even more powerful. It's that being yoked together. So imagine how much more momentum you can get when you yoke your body, mind, and spirit together. Even knowing all of the benefits, I have never actually taken a yoga class myself.
After we stopped recording, Angela gave me some advice about how to go about getting started with my own yoga journey. She said that the most important thing is to do what you feel intuitively called to do. Find a teacher whose energy you feel aligned with, or wait for that little ping or nudge that this is the right direction for you. And don't go overboard or expect perfection from yourself. If you enjoy Angela's energy, and how could you not, be sure to check out her podcast, Untamed Yogini, on Spotify or Apple, and go to her website, untamedyogini.com, to get that free Yin Yoga class that she's giving away. I'll put the links in the show notes. There is so much value in both the practice of yoga and the principles she talked about and how they translate into everyday life. I hope you're feeling the love today. So thank you so much for being here. Next week, we're going to talk about how the wise woman built her house. Until then, yoke your mind, body, and spirit together, and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.